Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel once again. I'm so glad to have you watch this video. My name is Jatau Ezekiel. On today's edition, we have our special guest, Laura, my elder sister, back again. And if you have not watched our previous video, I advise you go back to watch it. Last session was full. It was full with so much wisdom. I was so excited to have her here. And Lord said a lot of things through us the last session. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about prayer. Hi Laura, welcome to this channel once again.
Thank you so much.
So glad to have you here.
So glad to be here again.
So today we're going to be talking about prayer. And to start this, I would like to ask you, what is prayer to you?
Okay. Basically, prayer to me is communication. Prayer is communication. You speak to the Father and the Father speaks back to you. Prayer is the purpose why we exist. We exist for fellowship. Fellowship with the Father. So when I say I pray, it means I communicate with God and then I hear what He has to say back to me. So unless that cycle is done of you speaking to Him and Him speaking back to you, then you can't completely say you have prayed. And when I say communication, it's not just a one-sided communication of me speaking, but prayer is speaking to God and also waiting to hear what God has to say to me. So I would say I've effectively prayed when I speak to Him and wait to hear what He has to say to me too.
So do you think that every conversation with the Father has to come with a feedback? Are there times where you just pour out your heart and leave?
Oh, yes. Okay. Most definitely. You know, a lot of times, this most times happens in times when you're down and then you don't even understand what's happening in the situation on the ground. And you just go pouring out your heart. It's not wrong. It's not wrong at all. Just go pour out your heart. In fact, at that time, listening might not even, but just pouring out your heart gives you a lot of relief, a lot of ease, yes. So just the way we are with our earthly fathers, or you can just go and just cry. Like, all you have to do is just cry out. Like, a lot of times you might not necessarily hear the feedback immediately or even the way you want it to be. You just go cry out your heart and then you feel so much ease.
Yes. So like just as she was saying about our earthly fathers, painting a picture of an earthly father in our relationship with God is very, very necessary, because sometimes we tend to think of God as, oh, Almighty King and everything. So it's kind of hinders us communicating with Him effectively. It's like we're looking up to something greater, something that we can't access freely. So you see yourself being careful with the tone you use, the words you use. But you should know He is very mindful of you and He's more interested in speaking to you than you are to Him. So whenever you approach Him, just literally download it to Him. The same way you go to your earthly father. Oh, daddy, this, I need help with this. I don't understand what is going on in my life at this point. See what happened to me in school. And then you want a feedback. It's not that you just tell Him all this and you stand up and leave the room. Once you speak to Him, you wait to hear what He's going to say, because you have a belief that He is more knowledgeable than you in this aspect that you're coming to Him. So you have to come to Him freely and also be wise enough to sit down to accept each and every word He's going to say to you. So I feel like sometimes we need to remove that barrier of God being king, Him being supernatural. He's your Father. He loves you so much and He wants to, even when we're babbling, just like a father looks at his baby babbling on the bed. He's not like, what are you saying? It makes him excited. Even when you're saying rubbish, at that point, God is still happy, because at least He feels good with the fact that, wow, my daughter is confused. She doesn't even know what she's saying, but at least she found me convenient and comfortable enough to come and speak with. So I feel like we need to make our conversations with the Father more free, and we should stop limiting our conversations by ourselves and by our thoughts. And then this brings me to my next question.
Before you go to the next question, I want to add something, right? You know, just as you were giving the instance of an earthly father, right? A lot of times people just go to God and then they just want to pour it out and not want to hear Him back. But it is when you come to the case of maturity that you realize that it is even more important what he has to say to you than what you have to say to him.
Yes.
Like when you're a child, you just go, "Oh, daddy, I want sweets," and you all that you're not waiting to hear the explanation that comes with it. Like all that's in your head is like, "Daddy, give me money sweets. Or give me not even give me money. Please provide the sweets." Do you understand?
Yeah.
But when you become mature, you're not just going to make requests like a child anymore. You are going to understand, okay, Daddy, why is this happening? So you'll be more concerned with what he has to say to you. And that's the same way it is spiritually.
Yes.
The more we grow in God, the more we realize that what God has to say to us is far more important than what we have to say to him.
Yes.
It might be pressing in our hearts and everything, but maturity brings you to the point where you realize that no, what God has said to me is more important, so I'm more keen to listen than to speak.
Yeah. So yes, that's really true. And the next question is about timing prayers.
Yes.
Do we have to, for example, most African homes you have morning devotions. So there's this time that you wake up, the whole family gathers, and we are meant to talk to God. So in our daily communications with God, do we approach him on a timely basis? Oh, morning devotion, oh, in the night before I sleep, or in the afternoon during my break, or I don't know, what's your view on that?
First off, I want to start by saying God is within you.
Yeah.
He sees your heart.
Yeah.
So we can't put a time to prayer.
Yes.
But when it comes to morning devotion, evening devotion, it's just to awaken the consciousness that God is with you.
Yeah.
It's just to awaken the consciousness that I'm speaking to God. But pray without ceasing. Every time on your way out, in fact, speaking to God does not need a time. But because we as humans get to be overwhelmed with a lot of work and a lot of things happening, that is why it is of great necessity that you put a time to your prayer. You tell yourself, oh, this is the time I'm going to sit down. And also, the reason why I would say put a time to it is it gives you that you know that you are clearing everything to pray, right? So it gives you more room to deeply sit down to listen to what God is saying.
Sense of accountability.
Yes, true. You're not cumbered with a lot of things. You're not distracted, right? You're telling yourself, okay, this is the time I want to pray, and that is the reason why you put a time to it. But when it comes to God's availability, God is ready to listen to you and ready to speak to you at all times, as long as you are able to connect to him. And the best thing to know in your mind is that God listens to you all the time, and you can speak all the time. He's not giving you, oh, Laura has a schedule of by 6 o'clock I'm going to be talking to Laura, by 3 o'clock I'm going to be talking to Letia. Yes, gradually as you walk with God, he can have like specific times he would want to talk to you. Like God could wake you up by 3 a.m. and say, okay, wake up, I want to speak with you, right? Or you could be on the way, like either driving in your car or come back in a public transport, and you just feel a nudge in your heart. Like I'm not, there's no limits to what the Holy Spirit can do.
Yes.
But keeping that time gives you that sense of responsibility, knowing that it's to build consciousness in your heart, basically.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. As you were saying, you said that we are in a very busy world. So sometimes as students, you find yourself overwhelmed because you have to wake up early, have your bath, go to class, or even as a working class person, so you have to go to work. After work, you have a lot of duties here and there, and you don't just find this time to pray. And then you spoke about praying without ceasing. It's like more of a lifestyle. It's not a time limited stuff, right? So you have to consciously be in prayer. That means you have to live with the consciousness that you are in the presence of the Father
all the time,
and you are speaking to him continuously. So in this kind of busy world with all our schedules and everything, how do you actually make time to pray? Because we are all hearing prayer without ceasing, but how explain this prayer without ceasing, because it's actually quite complex.
Okay, prayer without ceasing, as I said earlier, first off, having the consciousness that you have a Father who hears you, very important, and also knowing that you have a Father who wants to speak with you at all times. The Father is always speaking, But the problem is a lot of times we're not putting our minds to listen. So how you pray without ceasing, bearing this consciousness, is that you're walking on the street, you keep this consciousness, and then you're speaking to God from the depths of your heart, and then you're also keen to listen, because God can speak through the most minute ways. Like He can
Very
speak
much.
like God can be really
Even
dramatic
through an
sometimes.
action that is going on at that point.
You get me?
Yeah.
So pray without ceasing. In fact, the way you live your life it's even prayer.
Yeah.
The way you speak to people, it's communication. Because prayer is basically a sacrifice, something it pleases God. It's a sacrifice that pleases God. So basically, the way you do things, your actions, your reactions, is prayer. Going out in the morning, how do you treat the people on the roadside? Because you cannot say, oh, you're praying la ba ba bo shalaba, you're speaking in tongues, and then on the roadside you are insulting somebody, and then you continue. That is not prayer.
Yeah.
So prayer goes into how you even live your life daily. It's prayer. How you speak to people, it's prayer. How you do your work, are you diligent in doing your work? It's all prayer. Because those are things God's seen, and then He begins to respond back to you. It's all prayer.
Yeah.
That's how you pray.
Yes. And to add on the topic of praying without ceasing, it's what you just said. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's just about living in this consciousness that everything I do is being heard by God, and He's going to respond accordingly. So the same way we say worship is a lifestyle, that means you don't need to kneel down, your hands up, and then you say you are worshiping God. But even the way you communicate with others is ascending as worship to God, and so is prayer. For example, you said it's more like a call and response. So you are talking to your Father with the knowledge that He's going to reply you. So you can't. I'm just going to give you a very common example that we all use. It's like saying, oh Jesus Christ, you pray during your quiet time, God help me to pass my examinations. And during the day, you don't lift a cover of your book, you don't read a single word, and then in the exams hall, you expect revelation to just come out, and you know everything and you write. So even the fact that you are reading your book is ascending as a prayer to God. So He's seeing your effort. Oh, this girl, she's reading her book. So then His response is, at that time of your exams, He's now bringing it back to your mind that yes, you read page 1, yes, you read page 2. So you did not necessarily need to be like, oh God, as I'm reading page 1 in the examination, help me remember page 1. But the fact that you read it, He has said it as a prayer to God. So you are showing Him your effort, and He says a rewarder of all effort. So He has seen it, and then He will respond to you back at the time of your exams. So like, it's actually not just about sitting with God and praying. This is because God rewards efforts. So even our lifestyle ascends as prayer to God. So it has to be a conscious effort. So you consciously know that I am in the presence of God. Even as I am in my room alone, I am in the presence of God. So every action, every thought, and every word that proceeds out of my mouth rises up to God as an incense, and He will definitely respond accordingly. How do we ought to pray?
First off, when you're going into prayer, you go with the knowing that you have a Father who hears you. That's the most important thing, because if you're just praying without that consciousness, it makes prayer vague. But when you go to pray, you pray knowing that you have a Father who hears you when you go to pray. And also knowing that not only does He hear you, but also He also wants to speak with you. So that joy of prayer is there, knowing that He's waiting for you, like He wants to be in communication with you. That's the joy of prayer.